she's passionate about telling stories of amazing women who are rocking the world and empowering women to live, love, and thrive. Here's your host, Katherine Gray.
Hi, welcome to Live, Love, Thrive Women's Empowerment Hour, brought to you by 360 Karma. We're so happy to have you here today. We hope you're following our conversations on Facebook and also following us on Twitter and Instagram at My360Karma. So we have an incredible guest today. She is actually the Woman of the Year for the LA County Commission for Women. I'm going to be going to that luncheon where they're going to be celebrating her. Please give a warm welcome to Lindy Huang. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks
great.
for having me.
Oh, glad to have you. I know it's a little hot in here.
It's a little warm.
I love the fan. Yeah. I knew we had show fans. So you are getting this amazing award,
Yes.
Woman of the Year for the LA Commission, on women, and that is a really big deal. This is their 34th annual luncheon.
Yes.
And they're celebrating all the wonderful work you do. How does that feel?
Pretty incredible because I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah. I'm probably putting you on the spot here because I know you're very humble. Yeah.
So, I was surprised that when the nominator, someone who's in supply diversity at Disney nominated me, Ankit. And he called and said, "You were selected." And I thought, "Oh, I'm selected as a nominee."
Yeah.
And he said, no, you're selected for the award.
Oh my gosh.
And I said,
Wow.
"Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "Actually, I'm not kidding."
Oh, that is so wonderful. Well, you're so deserving of it. We met not that long ago, but through people that I really respect and love working with, which is Elisa Parker and Tabby Biddle from the 50 Women Can Change the World. I'm on their board. And they, spoke so highly of you and said, "Oh my gosh, this woman is such a connector." And I was like, until I met you, I didn't know what they meant. And I was like, oh my gosh, this woman knows everybody. And you have such a gift of putting people together.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I know you're involved in a lot of different things, and we're going to talk about that. I also want to talk about your incredible story of how you ended up here in America. It just really blows me away. And I imagine there's listeners out there that have similar stories. So I always like to share the journey. But your mom actually gave you over to your aunt and uncle, right?
Correct.
Back in Taiwan, where you were born.
Soon after I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they pretty much raised you, right, until you were eight.
Yes. So they had 4 kids of their own.
Yeah.
And my mom had me, and I guess she had other things to do.
Right.
So, my aunt and uncle raised me, and they were my parents.
Right.
And then, and throughout the years, I saw my dad or my mom, here and there.
Right. And you did mention that your dad, your actual biological dad, was very wealthy, but the aunt and uncle, have little means.
Right.
But you grew up around their kids and a lot of love. And
right.
you can't ask for more than that.
No,
right?
And I never felt like there wasn't anything I couldn't do.
Right.
They were just incredible parents.
Yeah.
And then, when I was 8.5, my mom came back and said she was getting remarried and she was taking me with her. And I thought, I don't want to go with her.
Yeah.
She's not my mom.
Well,
so I said, take my cousin. I'm like, take her. She wants to go. And they were like, no, I don't want to go.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so we came to the States and we went to New Orleans, and that was a shock.
And you were sharing with me you didn't even know the language, right?
I didn't.
So you're pulled up out of this family with a family that you really don't know, even though it's your mom and then this new stepdad.
Right.
You come to a country you know nothing about, and you end up in the city of New Orleans and not even speaking the language. At 8 years old, this had to be kind of traumatic, right?
Right. It was really daunting.
Even though it's a blessing in disguise in the long run.
Right. In the long run. Yes.
Yeah.
But in the first year and a half that I was in the States, it wasn't a great time to be in New Orleans. It was, it was the 70s. Right. We lived in an area that was predominantly white, and I was almost like an alien.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I had to learn the language pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a very receptive town or city that we were in.
Right.
And then my stepdad got transferred, so I had to go to ESL classes and learn the language, and he got transferred to LA, to California. So we lived in Orange County until I was 18.
Right.
Until I moved.
And then moved to LA.
And I moved to LA, and then I've been in LA pretty much ever since.
Yeah.
So this is really my life here.
With this big immigration conversation going on, I just want to say, so your parents moved here for a job, right? Mm-hmm. And then you were raised here, and you're an immigrant. You came from Taiwan,
right?
And here you are with this super successful, award-winning recruitment company, just making such a difference to people's lives and their, getting jobs and working with these huge companies to fill it with the right people, and it's just another great success story of why it's so important that we have diversity, that we have immigrants come here that are smart and driven and have their own businesses.
Right.
And I think people overlook that. I don't know what's going on in this country that there's such a they're turning such a weird cold shoulder to immigrants. But
right.
I don't think it's the majority of people.
Right. But there's a big enough population of people that affect how we do business and how we hire and how we affect our culture, whether it be at home or in our communities. And having that diversity of employees, of staff, of community brings a lot of diversity of thought,
right?
And I think it actually makes us much healthier.
Yes.
And there's many statistics out there that show that women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses and small businesses really help engage the community. And if we can engage people with the small businesses, the local community, we can really actually affect the economic climate of our country.
Yes.
And so so it's interesting that a lot of people don't see that, but if we don't actually really get behind all these small businesses and minority-owned businesses, and we're really the marginalized groups like the LGBTQ groups and whatnot, it will negatively impact everyone.
Right.
I was at a Tuck program at Dartmouth not too long ago, and they talked about that. They talked about how it has already been mapped out what it will do to all ethnic groups.
Right.
If we don't all get behind it. So it will affect the Caucasian race. It will affect everyone.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that people now still don't see it.
Right. Right. They do need to be educated.
Right.
Yeah. And so your journey was that you actually were in the financial sector, right?
Correct.
And then made this leap into recruitment,
right?
Which was kind of the best thing you ever did, right?
Yeah, it was. It was the best thing. I was in finance and accounting for about 9 years, and someone at my company had referred me to a large search firm, and I thought, okay, I'll go meet someone. I was working 80 hours a week, and I was a young single mom. So they didn't call me for an accounting and finance job. 2 months later, they called me for a recruiter job. And I thought, you guys really didn't listen to what I said I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'll go, keep my options open. And I went and met with them. And I thought, what's the worst thing that could happen? I don't like it, and I go back to finance and accounting. It's not going anywhere. And it was a complete life change. 3 months later, I knew I'd never go back to accounting and finance.
Wow.
And that first year.
And yet you do recruitment in the area of finance and accounting.
Right. And so it gives me the ability to really help counsel the candidates,
because you've
I've
been in that.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
And it helps me counsel the clients because I understand what it is that they're looking for.
Right. And you work with really big companies, right?
Very large companies as well.
Disney?
I've worked with Disney, with Sony. We worked with some of the bigger companies over the years, and we've worked with. We work a lot with. Entertainment media companies and tech companies.
And how do you say the name of your company?
Integritas Resources.
Integritas Resources.
Yeah. So it's Latin.
In case people want to check it out.
Yeah. So, but it's great because if it is a small or early growth company, and we work with a lot of those companies, we help really develop the team and help counsel the executives on what they actually need in that position. Sometimes they come to us and they say that they need a CFO, but they're really not in a need for a CFO.
Right.
That they actually need a different position. So we really are kind of nailing down what do you need long term.
Right.
And let's give your staff some room to grow And sometimes you don't necessarily need to bring in a huge heavy hitter.
Right.
Sometimes you need to give your organization some time to grow into those positions.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do? You go into these companies and you fill their positions, or
I do. They engage us, and I would say 95% of our clients over the last 15 years have been referrals. So the majority of my clients are referrals.
That's great.
And I go in and meet with the executives and get a sense of what it is that they're really looking for. And then, make some recommendations of what I think would work and what I think wouldn't work. And we do, even though we're a contingency firm, we do a full 360-degree evaluation on these individuals. So we actually go out and recruit the people that we feel would be a really great fit for that organization.
Wow.
Yeah.
So nothing more thrilling really than putting somebody into a position that changes their life and makes that company happy. I could see there'd be a lot of fulfillment in that.
Right. Yeah.
Is there something women could do to better prepare for going out and being recruited that maybe you think women in particular fall short in?
I do. We did. We've been doing, a lot of C-suite positions for quite some time now. And more we've had, the executives or the private equity firms and whatnot indicate that they would like a female executive, because maybe perhaps they don't have that diversity as they would like, But
sure, there's a few of those companies.
Exactly.
One or two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is what I've seen more and more of recently is every once in a while we'll get, actually one of the recent searches, several women either came to us and said, I'm sure that they don't want to hire a female, but. So they led with a negative.
Right.
And then I, would explain to them, actually they do.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of women, we've talked about this many times before, that women have a tendency to judge themselves much harsher for specific positions, whether it be for, an employment or running for office or whatever it may be, whereas men are much more comfortable to say if they have one thing, they're, they're perfect for the job.
More confident. Yeah, like if there's 10 criteria, the man will have one and say, I'm eligible for this.
Right, exactly.
Where the woman will say, I only have 5 of those things.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And so I think, a lot of times it's really taking that leap of faith, really looking at the skill sets that you have and what's transferable. Right. And not looking at what you have and whether or not that's exactly what they're looking for. But understanding how to communicate what's transferable and showing the value that you can bring to the organization.
So even if they didn't have that exact position, what they could transfer that would actually enhance it. Right. And so I guess what do you think it is that holds women back? Is it just the culture that we're brought up in that makes women less confident? Why is it that we think we need more of the criteria? What is that about?
Well, I think one, we just haven't had as much time, as men in general in some of these positions. But I also think that it's really important for women to help other women.
Absolutely. Bingo. Ding, ding, ding.
And
I'm all about that.
I personally think there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women.
Yeah.
Me
too.
But I'll look back on my career, for instance, and it was not the women that helped me throughout my career. Right. It was the men that actually helped me and advocated for me and whatnot. Yeah. So I think that when you're in any position that you're working in, or whatever it is that you're doing, that you should find people within your organization to be, one, advocates for you, two, but get a mentor. And it doesn't have to be someone who's female, because if you look at the demographics, there are more men in positions of power than there are women. So trying to just find women to be your mentor is probably a little bit difficult to do to help you get to those stages. And so I think it's important we talk about diversity, so it's also important to have diversity as far as your mentors are concerned.
Right. And I do think that there's a lot of men now that are recognizing that they need to advocate for their sisters, their daughters, their mothers, their friends, and are willing to give them that leg up. Don't you think?
Right. Absolutely.
I think we've put it more on the radar, like, hey, more women should be in positions of influence. It actually helps the company to be more profitable. And now that they're aware of that research, being a little bit more willing to take a look at that.
Right. Yeah. And also I think, for a lot of men, they probably, men are much more direct as far as what it is that they want, right? And so when you're working with individuals of, other genders, they're kind of expecting you to just be direct, just speak and say what it is that you want, right? They're not really thinking, let me think about like what that person wants. I think women have a tendency to do that better.
Right.
We're thinking, peripherally how it's going to affect that person.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just as simple as asking
being direct
for what it is that you want.
Yeah, something tells
and
me
how
you
do I
have
get
no
there?
problem with that.
No. Nope.
And that's why you're so successful. Also, too, I know you got married for is it the third time?
Yes.
Yeah, third time's a charm, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it definitely
to Tom.
was for me.
And and Tom, I know is you and him have collaborated on a really interesting other venture outside of this successful business that you have, which is a love of yours, which is yoga, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so you guys developed a yoga strap, and I know we have a couple pictures of it. And tell me about that, how it came about, and why somebody would want that, because I know it's a really popular product that you guys have invented and manufactured, and you're doing really well with it. In fact, there's a website for it, right?
Yes, it's Zen Yoga Strap.
ZenYogaStrap.com. Now explain it to me.
So a couple of years ago, I think it's been a couple of years, I have been doing yoga with some of our friends. I think you might know a couple of them privately, and a friend of mine would come and join us every once in a while, and this has been kind of ongoing for a couple of years. And she was having some knee issues at the time, and was not as flexible. Most of us are not very flexible.
Right.
And so
speak for yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
And so anyway, so you would say, I wish I could do that, or I could do this. And she'd been going to a trainer and a PT for some time, and was not progressing. And I thought, for her birthday, and I was an athlete all grown up. So, it made perfect sense to me that most of us need something to help us get into a deeper stretch.
Yeah.
Right. And you can't do it with a regular yoga strap because there's no loops, and there's no tiers. Right. So I thought, I'm going to go home and make her these straps that would have tiers so that she can eventually progress up to her feet and actually get the benefits of these stretches. Otherwise, you're just sitting in those positions. You're not doing anything.
Right.
And so I went home, and my husband, Tom, actually makes ergonomic guitar straps.
Right.
Slinger straps.
And that's another cool product that I want to talk about. I know some famous guitarists have bought his straps, right?
Yes.
And so many guitar players get like a
they get a guitar shoulder.
Yeah.
Or if you have any sort of like disease or anything like that in your neck.
What is guitar shoulder? What is
it? So after years of playing, because I think an average guitar probably weighs 10 or 15 pounds, right? So if it's a bass, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And you're wearing it on the same shoulder constantly over and over again, and it causes a lot of guitars actually have a little bit of a lean. They because of that constant weight, right? Which causes a problem. So if you're a professional, you can't go and just have surgery, right? Because you're going to be out for several months,
right?
So you either have to take medication, or you're just going to have to deal with the pain,
or get this guitar
get the strap.
Which it goes around the waist.
So it goes around your waist.
Oh my God,
it's called the hip strap.
Wow.
And you and so there's strap buttons are already on your guitar. You have to put for some of the straps you have to put another button in, but you can just wear it, and there's no strap here.
No strap.
Yeah.
And can we say some famous people are using it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think Davey Johnstone from Elton John, he uses it.
Oh my God! I just saw that concert the other night.
It's a great concert.
Oh my God! And that guitar, his band is off the charts. That guy uses it.
Yeah,
wow, I wish I'd taken note of that the other day. That's really cool.
Yeah. So so it's his daughter-in-law actually saw it and ordered it, and we shipped it to London because that's where she lives, I think.
Oh my gosh.
And she then shipped it back to the States to Davey.
Oh my gosh.
And then Davey called Tom and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about these straps."
That's so cool.
But it worked well for him, and
So the story is you took that guitar strap and figured out how to
Well, so I came home and I told Tom that, listen, I want to make these straps, and Julie's taller than me, so we'll need to make it a little bit bigger for her because
Yeah.
she's taller. And he said, I said, so, can you sew that up for me? Because we have an industrial sewing machine in the garage for him to make prototypes for all the different musicians. And he said, with what? And I'm like, with the guitar straps. And he was like, okay.
That's
so
great.
we gave it to her for her birthday, and it kind of just took off from there.
Oh my gosh! So you created this for your friend that had this need,
Uh-huh.
and then you realized, oh my gosh, a lot of people are
Right.
going to want this.
Right, and other instructors.
Yeah.
So we did a test with some other instructors, and they gave us some really positive feedback. And we had a lot of friends who do yoga, and so they also were all using it, and very quickly.
So this is basically for anybody that does yoga.
Well, not just for yoga. So
Yeah.
it could be for athletes and whatnot. So for me, for instance, I will use it to stretch at my desk. I will use it to stretch in the office. I'll
Right.
use it to stretch if I'm, traveling.
Right. So it's something you can take with you.
Right.
And use
you
it
could
to
do it
stretch.
you could do it now.
Right. We should have brought one. So you can do it anywhere, and
Right.
the whole purpose of it, it gives you a better stretch than
Right.
if you didn't use it.
Right. Because if you
And
have
also
the
if you have
regular
injuries like
Right.
your friend, right? Yeah.
And if you have regular stretching throughout the day,
Yeah.
you actually get better benefits for your body than you
Oh.
do if you're only doing yoga twice a week.
Oh,
Right,
so
because you're
this is
actually
something you're doing
stretching
every day.
throughout the day.
Oh, I love
like
that.
10 minutes. If you're reading something,
Yeah.
you can stretch your shoulders out.
Right.
And so that you're constantly staying loose.
Right.
Because the tight muscles are what causes the injuries.
Right, right. I love it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they can find you at your recruiting firm, which is
Integritas Resources.
right. And if they are also a yoga fan, they can find you at Zen Strap Yoga.
Zen Yoga Strap.
Yeah, ZenYogaStrap.com.
.com.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank
and
you
if they
so
need
much.
a guitar strap, then they
Oh,
can
yes!
go to slingerstraps.com.
Yeah. What's the name of that one?
Slingerstraps.com.
Slingerstraps.com. I love it. You know what? They always say a busy woman is never doing just one thing.
No.
I know I'm not either. So it's so fun to talk about all the cool things you're doing.
Yes, absolutely.
You're an amazing
Thank
lady.
you.
I'm so excited to go to the luncheon when you're going to get Woman of the Year.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. And just keep doing the amazing work that you're doing of putting people together. I love it.
Oh,
I love
thank
it.
you. This is
Yeah.
great.
Thank you so much for tuning in. You can find us here every Wednesday at noon, as you know, or look for us on YouTube or your favorite podcast. Thank you so much, and make it a great week. Hugs and happiness.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.